The Black Wyrm of Brandonsford is a low-level sandbox adventure for BX or other old-school clones like Old School Essentials, full of fairy tale charm. Let me tell you about it. Spoiler alert, if you want to maybe play an adventure, a fairy tale-like adventure of this style, send this video to your GM and stop watching. If you are a GM and you're looking for a perfect introductory adventure for new players, for young players, children maybe, into old school role-playing, look no further. This may be one of the best out there. Consider liking and subscribing to my channel, and let's get into it. Now, this is a very charming adventure. Like I said, full of fairy tale charm. This could be right out of Arthurian legend, for example. But the charm does not come from an overabundance of illustrations. There are some, but not many. Also not from the flavor text, because there is practically no flavor text. But what you have here, the locations and the NPCs and situations, could be right out of Irish folklore. So the gist of the adventure is that there was a dragon slayer, Sir Brandon, and his compatriots, and they slew a dragon, and thus they became knights. And the town where they slew the dragon was called Brandonsford in his honor. And near Brandonsford, Sir Brandon and his knights are buried, and with them the magical sword they used to slay the dragon. The dragon is actually a cursed dwarf. Family of dwarven brothers have been mining for metal ores near the town. One fateful day they found a dragon sword, and over the greed of that gold, one of the dwarves killed his brothers, take it all for himself, and a terrible curse struck him. A greed transformed him into a dragon that is now terrorizing the townspeople and the land around Brandonsford. Also, there are fairies. Mainly there's a tribe of goblins who follow the goblin king Hockboon, who's setting up shop in an old keep and is trying to subdue all of the land, become ruler of all of the land. So to start with, you get adventure hooks while relaxing in your favorite tavern. They heard about the dragon, and where there's a dragon, there's a treasure, there's a dragon sword. Or maybe they got a map that is showing the way to the treasure in the Dwarven Mines. Or maybe they're following the request from the town of Brandonsford that has humbly requested to hunt and kill the dragon with the reward of 1,000 gold pieces. Maybe they are members of the Adventurers Guild. We've got a DA table of rumors, some of them true, some of them false. Then a short description of Brandonsford, mostly of the NPCs you will meet there. Not so much of the town itself. So just channel your memory of your dearest Arthurian legend film and describe what you see in your head. Noticeable NPCs. There are 2 taverns in town. One with a very hospitable halfling host, and one with a uncomfortably friendly old host who thinks the other one is a thief because alcohol, wine and booze keeps vanishing from his cellar. There are also 4 NPCs here that you can find in the tavern. These can either be hired as mercenaries if the party needs some support, but you also got a complete party of level 2 characters ready to jump into the adventure right here. And we've got Warwick the blacksmith, who is running out of ore and will reward the PCs handsomely, and I mean handsomely. If they can bring him a wagon load of ore, he will give them a mithril chain. That's a chainmail +1 that halves damage from spells and magical weapons. This is probably worth more than the entire Shire. So nice quest hook right there. Then we've got Ingrid the alchemist, who's secretly an admirer of Warwick, but can't bring up the courage to tell him openly. So she leaves love letters at night at his door, but Warwick can't read. So the players have the opportunity to get involved with this as a side quest and endear the town population to the group. Also got Father William, the local priest, who doesn't like witches, doesn't like fairies, and he has sent Brother Dirk to the knight's borough mound to retrieve Sir Brandon's magic sword, so a source of information right here. Another quest hook right here, whose 3 boys are out trying to catch the dragon on their own. He's a real loudmouth, and his boys will get killed if the players don't intervene. So another quest hook right here. And Ingrid the alchemist knows Vivian the witch of the woods, who could potentially help the players with the dragon. So this town is full of information, quest hooks, and NPC interactions ready to use. The missing booth, that is one of the subquests. Quinn's booth is vanishing from the cellar. Responsible for that is actually Naginin, the Cluricaun, a type of fairy that sneaks into the cellar at night to drink all of the booze, and the players can trap him, and as a reward he will offer his pot of gold. But the pot of gold is actually in the castle of the Goblin King, so another quest hook right here. Fairy Visitor, that's the love interest of Ingrid to Warwick. Then outside of town we've got the woods themselves with D12 random encounters, and some of these are also story hooks, like the 2 dragon hunters, the idiot dragon hunters, the sons of the loudmouth farmer, and signs of the dragon. And then a complete subquest right. There's a golden fox that is pursued by 2 fey hounds and 1d6 plus 1 pompous elvish hunters. So this interaction between the hunting party, the prey, and the players could go either way. Just something to make the woods more lively, and if that wasn't enough, there are also goblin scavengers around that are pushing a wheelbarrow full of stolen trade goods back to the goblin castle. I've got the titular dragon himself, which, as far as dragons are concerned, is not so dangerous, but for a low-level party this is plenty dangerous, and attacking it head-on will probably result in a total party kill. His skills are immune to normal weapons, so you better get some of the magical weapons. His jaws are dripping with poison, and he has a breath weapon that is spraying yellow sulfurous gas. So hunting and killing this dragon will be quite the feat and will require some clever planning and preparation. One of the adventure locations, let's go to the map, the stream, would be the stream running right through the middle of the map. As you go along the stream, you've got 1d4 random encounters, Nixie, traders, leprechaun, fisherman, a river troll, and more goblins and giant beavers. Did I mention the fairy tale charm of this adventure? Then in the woods, we've got the witch of the woods with her forest clearing and her witch's hut. And Vivian, despite whatever the town priest will tell you, is not exactly an evil witch. But she's just too old to care about being polite. So she's an old cranky woman, but she is actually well-meaning and can help the party overcome the different challenges, like the dwarves, the dragon, the pond. She can point the players towards some trees that grow in the Thorn's Grove, and the sap of those trees is magical wine, so potent that is enough to knock a mortal unconscious with the slightest sip. If you can somehow get the dragon to ingest a bucket full of this stuff, then you've got quite the advantage in trying to slay the dragon. But you actually have to get the sap from the Found's Grove before you can do that. So another subquest right here. And we've got the Giant's House. Inside of the house you will find Brother Dirk, who has been sent by Father William to fetch the magic sword from the mound. A destroyed caravan that has been plundered by goblin scavengers, and they can lead you to the goblin's keep. We've got the Dwarven Mine, where you can get the iron ore, but it's been completely destroyed. Searching through the rubble, you can come across a dead body with a ring of soul catch, and whoever wears this ring can see the ghost of Grimney, one of the Dwarven brothers. He can point the players towards the dragon's lair. Inside the dragon's lair you will often find the dragon, maybe more importantly for the PCs, the huge hoard of 9,000 gold coins and some trinkets. One of them, a magical weapon you can use to combat the dragon with. Then we've got the goblin's castle, a small dungeon. The map is in the back, in the appendix. This is the goblin's castle. So get a description of every room and what you might find in there, including the Goblin King. And this is not just some roll initiative encounter. You can reason with this fairy creature. You can become one of his followers, or at least pretend to become one of his followers. And he wants the party to bring back the dragon to him alive, either asleep or trapped in a cage, but alive, so he can make the dragon one of his followers and rule over the entire region. Then there's the big dungeon, the borough mound, where the players might venture to get the magic sword they might need to kill the dragon, but this is actually optional. There are other ways to get rid of the dragon. So you've got a huge dungeon, 2 levels with 20 rooms, and you don't necessarily have to venture in there and explore every room, but there's a lot of stuff to find in here, and that might be great fun for other players anyhow. There are not many traps in these dungeons, not too many combat encounters. Some of them should probably be avoided rather than fought head on. So much of the challenge of this dungeon comes down to navigation and managing of resources. Bring enough torches. Retreat from the dungeon if you are taking too much damage. Then eventually you can solve the riddle of the maiden who will ask the party what makes a true knight. And the answer to that can be found in the dungeon, so if the party explores thoroughly, they should be able to answer this. And finally, the tomb of Sir Brandon himself, who is still dressed in his plate armor holding his holy sword. So if the party makes it to the final room of the dungeon, there's lots of treasure to be had that will also be very useful in combating the name-giving dragon. Adventure ends with the appendix, with the 2 dungeon maps, and an appendix with description of all the magical items that can be found in the adventure. What I especially like about this adventure is that while it is a free to explore sandbox adventure where the party can run off in every direction, it all somehow leads back to the main attraction, which would be slaying of the dragon. If they go to the Witch of the Woods, she can tell them about the dwarves that haven't been there in a while. And going to the dwarves, they might come across the giant's house, but in there is the missing brother who was on his way to the borough mound. Borough mound where you can learn about the dragon slayers and can get the dragon slaying sword. The dwarven mine that can tell about the dragon slayer and how the dragon came to be. You go in the other direction, you come across the destroyed cavern, you find out the goblins, you meet the goblin king. The goblin king who wants the dragon taken alive. But to do that, you need to go back to the witch in the woods. It's all interconnected. It all leads to the great finale of the adventure, which would be the encounter, the slaying or the capturing of the dragon. So yeah, The Black Bone of Brandonsford by Chance Dudinak. Very charming, low-level, fairy tale-like adventure. Really good foundations for you as a GM to work with, to lead this. And nothing superfluous around it. This is just brief. These are just the brief and efficient bones of an adventure, the basis of which you as a GM spin your own tale from. Exactly how I prepare my own adventures, exactly how I like to lead my adventures as GM. I'll leave a DriveThrough RPG link to the adventure in the description below. I'm a DriveThrough affiliate, so if you follow that link, it helps me and the channel out. As always, thanks for watching, and until next time.